Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing? Good morning. If you're watching this in the morning, great job, guys. We just completed our first week with distance learning. You guys have been turning in your assignments. You guys have been doing great office hours. I just want to thank you guys so much for actually contributing, turning in your work, and for being very flexible, guys. Thank you. So last week we just talked about Unit 1, which was all about maps, and we also talked about how do geographers collect information of the planet. For this unit, we're going to be focusing on populations and how populations grow, how they shrink, what are the costs, what are the effects, what are the problems, and also we are going to talk about how do humans migrate from one place to the other. Take a look. Make sure you guys take out a piece of paper, take out a pencil, and then put on some headphones. All right. Your AP teachers, they get all of their objectives and information from something called the AP Human course description. You can find it online and it covers all the objective and all the material that we've been covering this year. For this unit, as you can see, guys, feel free to pause the video to read the description. This is also the website if you would like to see the website. I also placed this in Google Classroom. Here's a quick review. So far in Unit 2, we talked about something called population pyramids. We talked about the demographic transition model, which has 5 stages. It tells you what stages the countries are in. We have talked about Malthus theory. We also talked something about called proto-natalist and anti-natalist policies. This just means governments create policies to control the birth rate, so they can control the population growth or control or keep the population alive. For example, proto-natalist means policies to help encourage couples to have babies, and anti-natalist just means policies that governments create to help reduce how many babies a family has. We also talked about an aging population. For example, Japan has most of the megacities, but another problem that Japan has is it has an aging population. That just means that they have way too many old people, and all these old people are being very costly for the government. They become so costly that medical workers, doctors, and nurses are having a difficult time to sustain them. In Unit 2, we also covered about how we can empower women through education and through giving them job opportunities, which helps lower the growth population. And also for this unit, we talked about migration. And that's going to be our focus for today. Here's our objective. We're going to explain why people are migrating. And then here's our another objective. We're going to talk about the two types of migration. There's forced migration and there's voluntary migration. This is just a quick recap. So we have something called forced migration, which just means people are being forced out of their homes. And then we have voluntary migration, which just means people have an option. People are deciding on their own terms. No one is pushing them out from their homes, and they decide to voluntarily go to a different neighborhood or a different country. Sometimes the distinction can be confusing. Sometimes it could be a mix of force and it could be a mix of voluntary. Here's some great examples of forced migration. If you take a look at the picture with Africa and all the arrows pointing to the Caribbeans, that is an example of a forced migration of slaves being taken on boats to the Caribbeans to work on slave plantations. And if you take a look at the picture at the top right that says Indian Territory, as you can see in that picture is an example of forced migration of Native Americans being kicked out their homes. So that is A quick example of a forced migration. What is voluntary migration? Voluntary migration, an example of a voluntary migration is something called step migration. Feel free to read the definition. And there's another type of migration called chain migration. Make sure you guys pause the video and read the definitions. Another type of voluntary migration is something called guest workers. This is where a country like the United States takes in people from India, from China, from Africa, from the Middle East. They take those people, they bring them here to America so they can work. All right, let's move on to the next section. We need to figure out, why do people choose to migrate? And there's many types of reasons why people choose to migrate. We call them either push or pull factors. Push factors means something is pushing you out of your country. Pull factor just means a country is attracting you and bringing you into them. What are some examples of push and pull? Let's go over them. There's political reasons why people are leaving their country. One political reason is maybe their government is too oppressive, is too strict. Here are some three examples. For example, in Vietnam, we had a communist regime that was very strict, that they were forcing people to stay at home, to be farmers. They were wearing the same clothing, and they didn't have many options. Uh, the Vietnamese people who live in Vietnam did not like their society, they did not like the government, so they decided to leave. Another example is Cuba. In Cuba, we have the dictator Fidel Castro. Many people did not like having Fidel Castro as a leader because he was making everything equal, to a point where people will work constantly and that everyone will get the same pay. So a doctor and a taxi driver will get the same amount of money. And that got a lot of people upset, so many of them decided to leave. Also, another political reason why people are being pushed out of their country is either there is internal conflict in the country, or there is a civil war. A famous example would be in Yugoslavia. There was definitely a civil war. In Rwanda, we had two groups, the Hutus and the Tutsis, were fighting against each other. There was civil war. And another reason why people want to leave their country is either there's a cultural or traditional difference. For example, India and Pakistan are two countries that are right next to each other, but they are culturally different. In India, they are Hindu. In Pakistan, they are Muslims. So there's already a difference of religion, and these two religions are often contradict each other, and a lot of people fight over the religion. Also, another cultural difference is the Jews. The Soviet Union is an atheist nation. It used to exist, but then it collapsed in the 1980s. But the Soviet Union is a communist atheist nation, and the Jews, they are religious people. They decided to leave the Soviet Union because they were being persecuted by the Soviet Union. Also, we have a group called the White South Afrikaners. These are white people who live in South Africa. They decided to separate themselves from the rest of the population, or the rest of the black population, because they didn't feel like at home. The white South Africaners were a minority group that did not want to be with the majority of the rest of the population. So the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, they recognize three groups of immigrants, three types of political immigrants. The first one is a refugee. This is someone who is being forced to migrate from their country because their life is in danger. So this means that the government is physically, literally trying to persecute a group of people, and those people try to run away from the danger. Another group of people is called the internally displaced people. People are similar to refugees. These people are people who are trying to escape, but they haven't been able to leave their country. And the reason why they don't leave their country is because the government is closing the borders. What's a good example? North Korea. North Korea has tight border control, so it's difficult for people to leave the country. And lastly, the third group is an asylum seeker. This is someone who has migrated to another country in hopes of being recognized as refugees. So this is someone who is in Mexico and they're trying to get to the US and they're seeking for asylum. They're seeking for asylum seekers. These are people who are looking for protection and safety in a different country that's not theirs. Finally, another reason why people leave their countries is because sometimes Mother Nature has different plans for you. Um, there's earthquakes, hurricanes, there's floodings. A lot of those things actually push people out of their homes and they have to look somewhere else to find to live. Let's go talk back about refugees. Uh, these are the top countries that have the most refugees. These are the people who are trying to leave the country. We have Syria, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Somalia, and South Sudan. Those are the top five countries that have the most people, the most refugees leaving the country. So where do these people go? Usually these people go to nearby countries. Take a look at this map. Oh, these are the top five. Make sure to pause the video so you can see the explanation about why these people are leaving. Make sure you guys pause the video and I want you to compare this map to the other map that I showed you. This last map shows you uh, the countries that have the most refugees, which means refugees are people who are trying to leave their country, people who are being persecuted. And all these refugees are migrating to nearby countries. And this map shows you all the countries where refugees are going to. So for example, right here, right in the middle, we have Syria. And so people from Syria are either running to Turkey, they're running to Iran, and many of these countries who can no longer take in more refugees because there's too many of them. How in the world do you take in 2 million people at your border? Many other refugees begin to cross the Mediterranean Sea into Greece, into Spain, and even into Germany. Germany has been very open with its borders, but many critics, many people from Germany do not like taking in all the immigrants because they feel that the immigrants are taking away their jobs and that they're putting an economic stress on the people of Germany. Here's another reason why people migrate. Sometimes there's better job opportunities. Some people just want to make a better life for themselves. And here are some important keywords that you guys need to review. Lastly, guys, feel free to watch this video. This video is about why do people migrate. I'm not gonna watch it during this video, but I'm gonna upload the PowerPoint so you can click on this link. This video is gonna give you a quick recap of everything we covered for this video. Other than that, guys, have a great day. Turn in your assignments. I turn in videos every Monday, every Wednesday, and I have office hours Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. If you have any questions, make sure you just give me a message. If you have any difficulties, reach out to me, guys. Have a great day, guys.